Hey everyone, it's Will, GamerDad, with another video for you. So in today's video, we're actually going to show all my farming results over the last 3 months, that is until the end of March 31st of this year. And of course, I'm going to share my usual thoughts about the state of the game, account progression, and so on and so forth. And also, today we have a special guest who will be featured a little bit later on in this video.
Hi, it's Andrews Prime.
Alright, so for those who don't know, Andrews Prime is the youngest of my 3 boys, and of course he is the one who always says garbage belongs in the garbage diet, which actually is very appropriate for the topic of today's discussion. Alright, so first of all, what am I doing in the game right now? I am grinding Rise Light. Now, of course, the newest Rise Saga 3 just dropped a couple of weeks ago, and I just actually finished it recently. So I am running that new dungeon to get some stones, finish up the gathering of those dark materials in order to kind of max out those 3 chants and so on and so forth. In terms of my green keys, I am still running in Trana because, let's be honest, I have 255 light or shadow on the appropriate units other than in Trana, which is camouflage, and so might as well do that. Now, as for my thoughts about the game and account progression, we're going to come back to the SA system. The SA system, of course, Stellar Awakening system, has been around for about 5 months. And, very early on, before the SA system even hit global, I did share my initial thoughts and impressions about it. And I did, publicly boycott the system. I'll put some links in the description below showcasing those 2 where I did not summon for serious, even though I had a complete account at that time. And I also did kind of bring up some negative points about the Stellar Awakening system. Now, many of us were trying to go with the wait and see. And of course, now we've seen what the SA system is. And unfortunately, it is as bad, if not worse, than initially thought. Now, just as a quick review, first of all, the SA system does not give you anything for getting a 4.5. That is, if you do get a 4.5 of the featured unit, you will still have to use 3 all cosmos star charts. If you do hit the 5-star off banner, then you will have to use 2 all cosmos star charts. In the case of AS or ES, we have to fully use 3 star charts in all cosmos in order to side grade those. And of course, with retro units, we can now buy 2 of those style-specific star charts from the Emporium at 400 per shot. Now, of course, some of those consequences, for free-to-plays at least, is that I am not using my Severe Wisdom to buy keys anymore. Now, you can say, well, that's not a big deal. I mean, how big are keys really? Well, the answer is, honestly, if you buy, 10 keys of each, red and green, you do get more opportunities to get those treatises, opuses, chance scripts, and so on and so forth. And as a result of the 5 months of not buying them, I am actually quite behind. I don't have 5 of most of the new units into codexes and treatises. You can say that's a little bit bad luck because we always said 3 to 6 months on average. However, the fact that I only have 2 Testament codexes at the time of this video. I believe I have 4 of AS Almas and only 2 opuses, or even 1 opus actually, for Ultra Arcane, being that they're all out more than 3 months. It does show that there is a significant impact. I mean, we can run the math of the odds that have been reduced, but the fact remains, you can't say it's nothing because it is very much something. Now, on top of that, how has the SA system really affected the game in terms of both the economy and of course, I'm always talking about a free-to-play standpoint, but we also do take into consideration how it does affect paid players as well. Well, unless you're a whale, where you're going to be paying paid stones on every banner and getting every unit, you are not nearly as affected. Now remember though, since the last 5 months, they still haven't solved one whale problem. And you can say it's not really a problem if you're a whale anyways. For all those players who have a 255 unit, if they're a retro unit, you actually are needing to pay regardless to get 3 star charts. Even in the case of a 255 Suzette, which is a retro unit, you could have bought 1 paid banner where you get 2 copies of a Suzette, 1 book, as well as 1 copy of Suzette. And then those 16 light that you would have put onto a Suzette would have gone converted into 16 light. But if you're a whale, you actually have 255 for everything. So eventually you're going to be stocking up on tons and tons of extra light and shadow items, of which they are of no use. Because really, if you're a total whale, you have 255 of everything, and you are forced to pay for every unit. And most players, other than the true whales out there, use a combination of the hybrid system, which we all know. The side grading system, of which has been decimated, of course, as well as paying on either paid faithfuls, star dreams, and so on and so forth. Now, let's talk about free-to-plays first of all, because I am a free-to-play, and I can't really put myself in other players' shoes. As a free-to-play, those off-banner pulls used to be the lifeline of a free-to-play. That is, hey, if I decide to pass on a banner, I can luck myself out, potentially hit an off-banner unit, and still be saved without any penalty. Remember, if I off-bannered a 4.5 before, I'll pay the 5 chants, treatises, codexes, altars, and so on and so forth. I would have the full unit, no penalty, all moves intact. Light and shadow obviously is going to be an issue, but hey, no penalty for that either. If I hit an off-banner 5-star unit, no resources were used. I have everything I need, other than, of course, having the 4 move slot, which I wouldn't have had as a free-to-play anyways for most newer units. And of course, chants, treatises, codexes, and opuses still were a barrier of sorts, but within 3 to 6 months, I would be able to side grade some, if not all of them. So remember, the timeline for a free-to-play is that if you do have most, if not all the units, like I did, once I passed on a banner, I can then either catch it up on a catch-up banner, or those kind of like those episode banners where they feature a certain unit, or other type of array-up banners, and then no penalty at all. Now, with 5 months after, I can tell you it is a brutal system for free-to-plays. You can look at my account as an example. Now, last summoning session aside, and by the way, this video is not to complain about the gacha rates, because I've been here since the beginning, and the gacha rates are the same, although to be fair, WFS has actually changed the rates and nickel and dimed us in a way as well, which I'll talk about in just a second. I've been able to off-banner a couple of the new units. I have a 4.5 Sazanka, which I've side graded to a 5. I off-banner a Melpi. I off-banner a Boro. Unfortunately, at the time of this video, it's been 6 All Cosmos Star Charts in my possession. We can only get 1 a month, or bonus of 2 with the first month being that Global merged with Japan. Those units will require 2 or 3 each. And so I can't even upgrade all 3 of those. On top of that, think of all the AS, ES, and Ultra has come out in the last 5 months. I don't even need to add them up, but they're in the double digits. I don't even have the codexes, treatises, or chants. Well, chants I do have, actually. Opuses, treatises, and codexes. I don't have any of those, enough to upgrade many of those. And even if I do, they are sitting there, and they will sit there forever. One thing we all know by now for sure, and I mapped it out with my friend before in the beginning, and you can check that out in my original video, like I said. We are not only forever behind, the gap is going to increase as we continue playing the game. Unless by some chance, WFS decides to slow down the rate of new units, which they haven't, free-to-plays will just never have the units. I mean, like I said, we are in the double digits in terms of AS, ES, and new units. I can only side grade 2 or 3 if I even get the unit. That means a gap of anywhere from 6 to 9, depending on how lucky you are, and if you had stones. And on top of that, we're expecting another, 20 units to come out this year, probably. I mean, we're only into April, and so if we already had double digits now, I expect another 20 out, of which, even if I hit them, which, I mean, that's difficult, that means I will need another 40 or 50, all cosmos to do that. And that's only the first year. So by year 1, I'll be behind 30 plus 20 something units. By year 2, I'll be behind like 60 units, and so on and so forth. I mean, I can only remember, we can only side grade between 4 and 6 units, depending if you hit that off banner 5, or if you hit a 4.5, which costs you completely 3. And so that is the main gripe. No matter how much we play, no matter how hard I work, no matter how much I think about the game, and my friend I have actually strategically passed on banners and decided how to budget for banners, strategically decide which units are good, and we can always catch up later or have some off-banner luck fill in the roster spots that we're missing. None of that will do any good because the star chart system will always keep us from utilizing the whole unit. Alright, so again, we'll always be behind. Now, it's time to introduce Andros Prime. So, Andros Prime, what do you think about the SA system?
I think with the SA system, you're kind of getting a 4.75 star because with the star charts, you lose essentially 3 abilities and 1 move. And like some units are viable without that move, like Suzette and Suhia. They're still really good units. But like for Winnefica is built on that 99999 1 billion damage hit with her end of the turn death stack. And also she doesn't start off the game with the stacks, like the curses. Some other things could be like if Yakumo had a SA, he would lose some of his abilities. Or if like Neptune or Flamelopus was...
Okay, so what Andros Prime and I were trying to talk about is, look at the new units that are being built by the SA system. So any units that are SA'd, the vast majority of them are broken units, and I don't mean broken in a good way. They're broken in a bad way. It feels like the design system of new units featuring the SA system are, hey, let's make a unit that has a disability or a discrepancy in their moveset. And then the SA will fix that. Now, maybe it's just me, but I recall that the SA system was supposed to be a bonus where we're getting a full 5-star unit, and then the SA would be added abilities to make them even better than they should be. I challenge you to find 3 new SA units over the last 5 months. I don't care if it's gacha or free, that would be better or equal to just a normal 5-star best of the best of 2023. Because we all talk about power creep and how, newer units are usually better than older units. And we've seen that over the last few years. I mean, year 1, we have a certain number of units. Year 2, we have some more units and so forth. 2023, the best of the best would be units like Ify, Yakumo, Minoka, Cesta. There's a few other ones, okay? Valette, of course. Hey, Valette, you can see clearly that there is a discrepancy with SA units because she starts with, even at the 4-star, battle starts 0% 0 MP consumption. I believe Melpy, you have to pay for the ability to be unlocked for 100% MP, 0 MP move on the first turn. So right there is what I mean by you're getting gypped. The system is purposely devaluing the way you are summoning because the units aren't even real 5-stars. They're, like my son says, we call them 4.75 stars because without the SA, you would never use them, okay? If that moveset came out without the SA, and they were marketing that as the newest AS and ES, we would all laugh and not even bother summoning. I mean, like I said, Cesta, look at her abilities, and if they made her into an SA now, Twin Blade Wolf, right? That would be her SA move. You wouldn't even start with that. And, the battles start enhanced wind zone. You might get that, but the Barrier Pierce will of course be locked behind the ability plus, and of course some of the other all 5 moves in one. You can clearly see where I'm going here, right? The units before were designed in a way that they were all, the moveset was all cohesive and powerful, and we wanted them, and obviously the devs decided that was too good for us, and decided to offer units that are less than optimal, and then only with the SS system you can say they're barely optimal. I think out of all the SA units that are extremely powerful, probably ES Silly would be one that comes to mind. I think some people said that AS Alma would be pretty decent as well. I can't say because I don't even have those units, right? As in, I have the units, but I can't side grade them. And if I side grade them, I can't even use them because I don't have enough star charts to side grade all of them. Even looking at the, the retro SA units, like my son said, Sukiya and Suzette, that's the kind of SA we want to see. As a 5-star without the SA, fully usable and capable outside the box, and when you SA them, they become absolute monsters on the field. Instead, we get some broken units like... I don't even know what to say. All right, Andres Prime. Tell the audience about how you and your brothers decide to quit the game completely.
Okay, so I originally quit during challenge difficulty, but that's probably because I suck at the game. But when I came back, when Star Charts dropped, I'm like, oh, this can't be that bad because I was viable using the units without the Star Charts. But then some of the more broken units came out, like ES Lily, and when she doesn't have SA, she doesn't start off with sword wielding savior mode, which is gonna take 5 turns to charge up, which means you can't first turn AF and destroy everything.
Okay. Speaking of which, that's another great thing we can tell. WFS has certainly pushed everyone towards paying to win because, let's be honest, the Astro Archive Challenge, no free team can get the top scores. That's another thing that really bothered me since the last year. Again, gacha units, gacha rates aside. I'm not complaining about gacha rates. I'm complaining about the whole game, actually, at this point. How can an Astro Archive system be focused solely on paid units? And don't forget, the best paid units. Like, for example, though there was a water challenge like with Garyu, essentially you needed a 1A water team, and I don't mean last year's 1A water team. I mean every new water team unit that you needed. So the game was pushing towards using the absolutely best and newest units, unable to kind of change up comps so that you can use older units and kind of have some variety. Like if you watch some of the newest YouTube videos now, how many different varieties of units are you really seeing? I mean, with manifest fights where the difficulty is relatively low, I still tried to find some pretty fun ways of clearing, like for example the AS Lovely, which was a little bit older, units like that or teams like that where we can have a little fun. Astro Archive, pretty much no fun at all, and most of the new recent super bosses pushes you towards certain team comps, like for example Barrier Pierce was required with 3.0. If you didn't have Minoka, you were either struggling or barely able to beat it. Even the later stages, when I finally got Cesta, that's just another Barrier Pierce, right? And of course, speaking about Barrier Pierce themselves, hey, as you summon for new units, the game actually disables your ability. So the newest boss, which is the Dark Worm, you have Barrier Pierce. It has orbs that counter your and nullify your Barrier Pierce. So even the units you paid for the best abilities for, the boss has now nulled those. So I mean, as you find better ways and ways to try to use older units, the game just slowly kind of squeezes its life out of you. As my friend said, you want to outskill the game? Take a punch to the face. Because even things like removing the 4.5 odds out of AS and ES banners is a slap out of the face to players who have been playing for a long time, because we know what the rates were. Hey, how about reducing the banner length from 60 days to 15 days or 17 days? And don't forget, those banners were reduced in length so that we couldn't off banner the Suzette and Sukiya to add a 1 out of 3 awakening gauge, even though those odds are relatively low, because rates of off banner 5 stars are 0.02. They don't even want you to do that, so they released those on its own, separate from those banners. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that's what I mean by smacking it down. Apparently, I don't have a lot of skip tickets, but if you press skip tickets and you have no red keys, it'll just charge you 20 stones and take it from your account without warning you of utilizing that. So, I mean, how about removing the 4.5k paid banners? That was removed for a little while instead of having a guaranteed one of those per update. So, every little bit feels like an adjustment of the game where the players are being disadvantaged. There's nothing that has come out of the SA system other than forcing everyone to spend and forcing everyone to have newer units. And of course, the difficulty of the optional content has now been ramped up so older units are essentially obsolete. That was a problem even a year ago, but to this point, it is extremely obvious.
So, with the 4.75 stars again, a lot of units, like old units, would be useless essentially without it. Like removing Chivalry from Radius or Faith from Yifa.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, honestly, at this point. Now, I guess I've vented a lot of different thoughts. I know that I'm probably forgetting many of them, but the overall feeling I'm getting from the game is no matter how much I work at the game, there's literally no point. Before, I used to be excited to run keys, not only run keys, I bought keys, and every run was like a little gacha. Hey, maybe I'll get a chance script. I can upgrade something. Hey, maybe I'll get the right treaties and upgrade. And of course, that's frustrating on its own, but at least I had a chance to progress with my roster. Everything I did in the game, I had a chance and a feeling of potentially increasing and improving my roster. And of course, that allowed me to be engaged in the game longer. I would spend more time on the game, which is what the devs want anyways, right? Devs want you to spend as much time on the game as possible. I think there are some metrics on gacha gaming where you want people to spend more time on the mobile game to increase their kind of engagement level and so on and so forth. There's no point other than spending real money or waiting for my daily logins to get like 50 stones or 20 stones or whatever. No matter how many keys I run, I'm not going to get a star chart. No matter how many treatises and codexes and opuses I have, I can never unlock the unit. And again, let me remind you, the gap will become bigger and bigger with every single month. So my game is always going to get worse. And again, the SA units without being Stellar Awakened are much weaker than their original counterparts with moves locked behind the SA system, which honestly it's just really frustrating to see that. I think the game has been very, very enjoyable. I've been here since day one, and I started creating videos, I don't know, a few months into that. And the reason for that, as many of you know, is because I wanted to share the love of the game that I had with others. I wanted to promote the game. I want to show people how to beat the game in the boss fights, or just some of my strategies and doing things like how to 255 a unit that's free, like a gacha unit for free, or just my summoning guides, trying to save you guys stones to better optimize your spending habits and units and so on and so forth. It's not that I didn't want you to support the game financially. That actually is never the focus of this channel. The focus of the channel was to lead free-to-plays in some strategies that my friend and I came across. And of course, even paid players can utilize that too. Because let's be honest, unless you're a heavy royal, even paid players utilize a combination of, side grading as well as pulling. But now the balance is completely shifted where unless you're spending a heavy amount, you cannot side grade everything. And I know some people will say, hey, Will, you don't deserve everything anyway, you're free. Or, what's the difference? You just wait and you'll eventually get it all. So, to bust those myths, no, you'll never get it all. You will never get it all. And as a free player, not getting everything, hey, being before in the old system, being behind 6 months or 3 months for the newest unit, I thought that was enough of a handicap where, hey, I don't have the newest units, I might have to wait 3 to 6 months. If I need to get the unit right away, I will summon for it. Or if it's a brand new unit, I'll summon for it. That was the price I paid for a free-to-play player. And of course, I didn't have 255 or 120 light or shadow, and that was also my kind of handicap per se. I realized that there's not going to be nearly as much for me, but that was an acceptable thing. I felt that was reasonable. I felt that I was still competitive, and more importantly, I was still relevant to you as well. When I showed you strategies, you guys could follow that. Hey, this is a low light and shadow requirement. Or I'll use older unit. Hey, I have those older units. As I got a lot of new units in the last year, people are just like, can you show me a clear without Sesta? Can you show me a clear without Monelka? How about if I don't have Kumos or Yakumo? That sucks, right? Hey, my Blunt team, my Earth Blunt team, haven't used it in the least. Because bosses, by the time Warped came out, was punishing you for having 2-turn AFs instead of 1-turn AFs. We've had a long run here, and I think the devs have made the gacha system very, very acceptable, very, very free-to-play friendly. I remember my first year of being interviewed by Scott and how I asked the question about, does the game focus on free-to-play strategies and make sure that it's viable for free-to-plays? And I believe the dev had responded through Scott at the time of that video that, yeah, I mean, they really try to make the game free-to-play and so on and so forth. Well, since the new developer has come out, or the new head of whatever has come out, that is certainly not the case. We're getting nickeled and dimed. The unit mechanics are being rushed. And more importantly, they're being purposely handicapped and then it's not even power crept anymore. It's only power crept if you get the AS. The SA. Otherwise, you're getting nothing and nothing at all. Andrew Shrine, do you have more to say about the SA system in general, or Or you're pretty much done with it anyways?
No, not much else to say.
I think that's the saddest part about the whole thing. Now, you can say I influence my kids, but the fact that my whole family doesn't play, other than myself, it's pretty sad. Like, you know, if you're a family man, you know that family time is important, and having boys, like, we can bond over sports, we can bond over trips, we can bond over dinner, but we can also bond over games. And I think I liked letting my kids play this because they had to read a lot, so it's good for their reading. For example, there's some problem solving or finding hidden elements, so they were able to do that. And my sons like to show off their strategies or even help me beat strategies, so I can share those with you. And over the last year, especially with the advent of Minoka, my kids have really just kind of wandered away for various reasons. Some have gotten older and obviously they have different interests, but all of them, when I ask them, is the same. Game is power crept to oblivion, there's no point, or I missed the newest unit so I don't feel like playing anymore, or the Stellar Awakening system, or the archive challenges. All those have frustrated my kids to no avail. Even myself, as a hardcore boss killer, you remember all my early strategies, and I usually was near the beginning of kind of putting out cutting edge strategies. They weren't low turn clears or eleganto, but I felt that they were quite able to be followed. Those dual hatchos, I used non-Melissa clears, for example. I tried to kind of show some really cool things when fighting. I have a lot of clears I'm pretty proud of, but I think some of the best ones were certainly the dual hatcho clears I was proud of. Some of the other weird mechanics out there, I think I can't think of them all, but I had a lot of them. I'm sure you guys have your favorites in terms of the clears I was able to show with you, and now honestly, very few of them are out there. Even if you look at the more recent Rise optional super bosses, those stupid dragons, the 4 of them, I've only beaten the first one. I remember, you know what the overriding boss mechanic was, right? I mean, the team was, right? Oh, let's use Aldo and Benedict. Great. So the vast majority of people just use that, right? I mean, yeah. So, I mean, you can clearly see that even though I would say I'm intelligent enough to figure out boss clearing strategies, and I think that my roster, honestly, is very, very good still. Even though I've missed the last few units, and I don't Stellar Awaken the vast majority of new units, I would say my account's competitive. It's just, there's no point playing because I can't progress on my roster, and I'm stuck behind the star chart system. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.